Good afternoon. And as we discussed, we'll keep the discussion free flow. And I think one of the critical discussion points which emerged even in the morning in planning was procurement. If you see, there's a lot of focus on procurement as such. With all that is changing now, all kind of uncertainties, including geopolitics, trade wars, disruptions, some natural disruptions, all have created a win-win situation for procurement function. And why I say win-win situation is primarily because here is an opportunity to transform a completely transactional function into a strategic and relational one. The way we have been looking at procurement is very simple. And we often complain about our suppliers, but most of the point, as when we look at planning and procurement planning especially, there is a firefighting and nervousness in the process of ordering and fulfilling that, and we run around that. And if we blame the supplier, we do not realize that we order randomly, we order too often to fit the bill. And where we ought to have been optimizing buying, using bill of material, and as I said in the morning, master production schedule, we do it for different reasons. And I think it's also a part of the larger supply chain and larger function, which essentially is very transactional, and it's also very siloed. Siloed in the sense, if you even look at larger supply chain, you find that, and the business as a whole, you find that the supply chain is completely into fulfillment of services, customer service, irrespective of all the other matrices. If you look at finance, it's into currency. And if you look at sales, it's into pipelines. And I think they're all in conflict then. There is no mechanism to look at them as a whole. With all these changes, with a lot of focus on sustainability, a lot of options for data and streamlining operations within procurement, I think there's a lot of ways that we can mend our practices and make them more strategic, useful, and sustainable. What are the challenges that procurement organizations are facing? I call procurement organization primarily because all of you are dealing with procurement. And what are the key critical factors that needs to be highlighted and needs to be addressed in terms of its transformation? We keep it free flow. We have the set of questions given to you. Some questions will come up, some will not come up as you take the direction. As I rightly said, the kind of discussion is going to be as good as we are on the stage, right? So let's start with it. Anyone, it's a free flow, means anyone can pick up and...
So I will start. So if you see, Doctor, what you said, procurement was never getting a chair in the board. It was always part of the commercial. That was the transactional procurement. Today, with the disruption which came during COVID, the scenario has completely changed. We have a place to say around as a supply chain is a key pillar or strategic part of decision making. So we are the people who are being requested to work as a strategy pillar. So we work as a strategic people around for any business to run. And we, during COVID, it gave a business a need that you are kind of BCP, you business continuity plan, you need to be part of that. It cannot be done in silo as you use the word. So what I see, there is a transition, journey has just started. We are transforming. Still there are transactions which are going on, but we are transforming. And It is transforming very fast. We had never seen that in last 15 years we can have delivery in 10 minutes with a dark store concept. Now we have that, and we are far ahead than the developed countries. So we are transforming ourselves. So yeah, we have a chair in the board, we get a management seat also, and people are getting heard, and we are into the strategic decision making also.
Just to add to Harshit's point, I would say that definitely COVID helped us realize that procurement is a very, very important function. But I would say that it goes back roughly at around in the year 2014, when organizations started really looking at a business continuity plan from a procurement perspective. In 2014, there is a manufacturing unit of one of the large MNCs who was supplying key ingredient to some of the very important sectors in the country. And there was a mishap in that industry. That's where people started looking at what is the niche product and how a business continuity can happen over there. So COVID added a fuel to it, and COVID also helped realize that procurement is one of the function which is not just needed so that end products can be manufactured, but has a very important role in the bottom line of an organization. The profits can be influenced to a greater extent by the role that procurement plays. And these tariffs and other things are further, instilling the belief that procurement is as important as any other function. We have too many challenges, but I'll keep it, short at this point of time, and we'll discuss over.
We'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So I think just picking up further on what my fellow colleagues have said, I think procurement historically and probably when I actually started my career was always looked at a cost center. You are the people who spend the maximum money for the company, right? And I think over the years, with various challenges that have happened, either geopolitical challenges that keep on happening, a lot of variability on how commodities are moving, a lot of new policies that keep coming up, a very strong need of looking at procurement as a strategic function has come up, and I see that over the last 8 to 10 years, there is a lot of focus, a lot of importance being given. We are part of a lot of important decision makings that just allows to convert not just as a cost center. Procurement can't really be only a cost center, but really we could be the growth and the margin drivers as well. And I think a lot will depend on how we take on the ownership as well in looking at cost, not just as a buying cost. It's also about saying how we can bring in a lot more efficiencies, across the entire value chain. But yeah, I agree. I think procurement is one large cost center on the P&L, and more organizations, more and more industries across are taking privy to us, and it's a good place for all of us to be in. And I'm sure we'll talk about the stuff that we deal in, how we maneuver. We probably do have a few answers. But I think each day is a challenge, and we deal with it with our head held high is what I believe.
Yeah. So I think we talked about COVID transforming procurement. We talked about how procurement has changed from being a transactional function to more a strategic function. But ironically, the question is why it is happening so, specifically in a country like India. The government is talking about doubling our economy from 4 trillion to at least 8 in the coming years, with manufacturing going from 12-13 to around 25%. So we are actually looking at a multitude of activity happening specifically, at least in manufacturing, and apart from manufacturing, the service sector, etc. So the quantum of procurement is significantly growing for the industry. And that is basically one of the major drivers where if you take 10 years before, with around 1 trillion economy, our buying itself was very small. Procurement was not sitting in the boards, basically because we were not very big guys. Maybe for a company we are good, but if you are a part of a 10 billion, 20 billion company, you are not getting a hearsay. So that is changing the momentum now, and as we talk, it is going to increase. The whole space is going to increase for people who are in the procurement space, specifically in the Indian region. And more than that, it is no longer a cost game. Like we always look at procurement as a TCO. Can we look at procurement as a game, like which is the least cost guy will go and buy? It is more about resilience of how the supply chain works. Primarily because of all the disruptions what we are seeing, the tariffs, the geopolitical risks what we are seeing, the forest risks, etc. The question is, how are we going to address any of these things and see how we can put procurement in the forefront and how we can avoid these things, or probably we cannot avoid, but how we can manage and run a function which is more streamlined to generate value for the company.
Good afternoon. My name is Kaliappan. I represent Arvind Fashion. If I say the brand names, you can connect with me better. We have the licensee for international brands, retail brands like Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, Arrow, and US Polo. So I handle procurement function for Arvind Fashion. So yes, I agree with Vinita. Definitely procurement function was considered as a back-end function. In our organization also, we have been called as a back-end function, allied function, but no more it's an allied function because organization started understanding this is the function adding value, this is the function adding bottom line. Now coming to my industry specific related challenges, the yesteryear challenges like what is it called, on time in full, quality and cost is not at all there. Today the challenges are completely different. We are fighting with a different KPI called fashion changes. So being into the fashion industry, fashion changes much faster than ever. So I mean, if short of words, if I put it like that, it is faster than making a Maggie. So it's like that. So in the office we talk like this. Go to bed, wake up, you wake up with a new fashion. So how are we going to manage it? So I'll take a minute to tell you guys how the fashion trotting was happening in the industry. Maybe 20 years back, Western countries and Italy was famous for fashion. So maybe 2 years down the line, it automatically comes to India. That is what generation one. After that, fashion retailers like us, what we thought, no, it's not right. We cannot adapt. We cannot be reactive. We should actually go to that countries and understand what is the fashion trend is, and try and copy shamelessly, and then do a first mover advantage. So it was running well. Maybe for 5 years it was running well. So first mover advantage is gone now. Now consumers are demanding. It's going to be a last opportunity. So how to find the trend faster for consumers' need is that day's requirement. Now we are predicting that this last opportunity is also going to go out. What's going to happen in another 2-3 years? We need to predict the fashion. So we need to be in Italy, we need to be a Western culture to understand what is going to happen in the fashion industry next 2 years. If we are not going to be doing this, we are irrelevant. We see a lot of brands are dying out. So for me, the major challenge what I see today is definitely a fashion requirement and how to adapt to that.
Thank you. I'm Nirmal Mishra. I'm from Aliaxis. We operate as Ashirvad Pipes in India. We are talking about the transformational side of procurement, how it has become from a transaction function to a transformation function. We need to understand how it evolved over a period of time. If you see, in early 1990s, the Western world was already moving to having procurement in the board, right, or in the leadership teams. But we were far behind. In the decade of 2010, you saw a major transformation happening in India, where you saw that procurement as a strategic sourcing function is being observed to give and create value for the organization. Now, if you consider the current scenario and say, for example, my company, my boss who is the CEO, he always says that, Nirmal, you have to sit in those meetings where we have the P&L discussions, where we have the discussions related to revenue generation, related to growth. And many times initially, how procurement was perceived is that what would they contribute in a discussion related to the P&L. And then you see that how procurement contributes in terms of managing the overall profits of the organization. So it starts from the concept where when you are designing a solution or a product or a service, at that point in time and how you bring on board the suppliers at that stage, early supplier involvement and engagement, and from there onwards, at every stage, whether it is the design phase, whether it is the processing phase, whether it is the manufacturing phase or the production phase, or it is the distribution phase, at every lever you have suppliers, you have partners with whom you have to decide on pricing and see how much you can actually contribute to reducing the expenses that the organization has. And then on the overall basis, you will see that at every stage, procurement is contributing to the P&L for the company. Even if you see the indirect side of procurement, for example, the marketing procurement spends, right? There also, you will see the role of procurement where everything that goes in the SG&A expenses for the ATL and BTL exercises, there also you contribute and you actually reduce the cost for the company. And that directly translates into the P&L impact. So procurement, specifically the strategic sourcing vertical within procurement, has been now evolving as one of the major strategic levers in the organizations. And the concept of strategic planning and sourcing is actually taking a front seat in many organizations. And that is the time you will see that it will come out of the shadows of an overall supply chain or an operations function. Rather, as you see in many of the companies now, even the Indian companies, which are large companies, you are seeing that procurement is sitting in the table with the leadership team or in the management committee or in the board. So this is a little bit insight on this topic, and it's huge. It will just take a lot of time if I continue. So I'll give opportunity to my colleagues. Thank you.
Hello everybody, good afternoon. I'm Naveez. I'm from Manta in the Maldives, head of supply chain. So I agree with the comments from the panel members here. But transformation, what exactly is transformation? Transformation is a top-down approach. It should start from the top. Procurement or supply chain has always been considered as a support function most of the time and not a core function. It's high time organizations and companies start recognizing supply chain and procurement as a core functionality. By doing that, the employees have more faith in the system. The number of people changing organizations or employees, the attritions are at all-time high, especially in this organization. That is because of insecurities, and the more weightage that is given to this organization, I think it will create more stability with the employees, thereby garnering better subject matter experts, and in the long run, creating a robust operating system for procurement and supply chain. Thank you.
All right, I think, okay.
Yeah,
At least in
so
the first question, we'll have everybody talking, then we'll pick and choose.
I'll push it ahead. Hi everyone, I'm from Furlenco. I head procurements for Furlenco. It's a rental ecosystem for furniture and appliances. I echo with everything that is spoken here in regards to how procurement now is becoming a more strategic lever into profitability. Yes, earlier it was considered a cost center, moving towards how we can be responsive and everything. Now, as even Nirmal touched upon, it's a place where procurement gets to say a go or a no-go at the start. And it's not just procurement saying it. Procurement has learned the acumen of finance, of how sales looks at it, what incubated into the product or the service will make sure the sales grow higher than anticipated, how the numbers can be corrected. So these kind of challenges have been taken up by procurement in the past few years. COVID being one such scenario where it has asked these guys to step up, learn the acumen of finance, of sales, of marketing and everything, and also push towards that side and say, okay, what changes can be done responsive, quicker, faster way, swiftly, so that this can be done easier. That's my take on it.
All right, I think we have set the pace. One recognition that procurement has become important, it is sitting in the board and also in the planning process of the supply chain. If you look at the fragmentation of what you say it is planning or supply chain design or the larger design of the organization, what is that the organizations are doing to bring a very integrated perspective to procurement function, largely through end-to-end margin management kind of frameworks, and how organizations are planning their strategies. So we'll start with, okay?
I will start with very blunt language, how transaction. So earlier procurement was PO banao mal mangao. That was the concept of procurement. And now we are part of full value chain. So we considered, in my organization, we are considered as a full value chain. I still remember the question how Pratibha said that all people from beginning hand to end going for a development. So we have a demand in place. When we go for supply development, we have category guys, SQD guys, procurement factory guys, all together to develop a vendor. Earlier it was not the situation. So now we are part of full value chain. So we are considered as a part of full value chain. So that is a transformation which is happening now. So we don't call as a standalone, but full value chain part.
Adding to that, I also see that people now also get the vendors onboarded at the designing stage itself to see the capabilities that can be brought in early stage on to ensure how quick the sales can pick up. It depends, it ultimately is contributing to P&L. If you are going to do sales only, then your company is going to run further ahead. It's as simple as that. You need to add value at the start and make sure how quickly you can turn it into money. Ultimately, we are all into trying to make it into a profitable organization. So P&L has to be part of it. And I think procurement, bringing in the capabilities of your partners, your vendors, helps scale it faster, do it more swiftly.
Right. I think just to add on to this whole change that has happened in within organizations, and I'm from the F&B space, and I'm sure most of you would have consumed our coffee. I'm hoping so. So the one thing that actually keeps the cafe stroke the QSR space going is innovation, right? I mean, all of us are customers. You keep wanting to experiment. We keep wanting to try new things. Every 60 days, we come up with a new product, whether it's a food or a beverage. And it goes through a complete chain of cross-functional development process. So we have something called the New Product Council, and this is something which has existed over the last 10, 15 years in multinational brands. All Indian brands, quite a few Indian brands have adapted it. Earlier, supply chain never used to be part of NPC. It always used to be, this is the product, this is what you need to procure at the best cost possible. Now we are all part of that entire council. So at a design stage, we are very, very sure whether the product that has been designed or is being designed can really actually go out on the shelves, from whether the sourcing is going to be able to be done right. Because it's not just about getting the product, the cheapest product on the table. It's really about being sure of what the total cost of ownership is going to be. Not just about getting that specific commodity, but it's also about what's the pack size, how is it going to be packed, how is it going to actually reach my warehouse, how is it going to go to the stores. is there any what sort of a shelf life do we want? So each and every aspect of it is considered right in the beginning. And I think that just ensures that the entire organization is also thinking from that perspective. The mind shift change is happening because we are being given a say whether this is doable or not doable. Because there is clear, the bottom line is going to get affected if any of these other costs are going to come as surprises during the course of the business. So I would say that for sure, there is a lot of work that's happening around in this space. And the more we keep getting into details of each and every cost element and being sure about what your procurement costs at each and every value chain is going to be, it's only going to ensure that the management starts taking you a lot more seriously, because the value add-on that you bring on the table, nobody else can.
Right, I wanted to add on that, similar to what Vinita said, in our company at Furlenco, we also have reverse logistics. We are a rental ecosystem. Basically, if I give a furniture to you, it'll come back from you after a certain time. And I need to make sure the next customer gets it in the best pristine condition as possible. So it's not just about sending it out to your customer, it's also ensuring the customer experience is there in multiple cycles. And that's where ESG goals also come into play. I think procurement plays a huge role in that aspect as well, along with the NPT councils, as she rightly pointed out.
So I'll add to the margin end-to-end margin side. One of the things that if you recollect earlier was, okay, we have a product which has a 40% margin. We don't need to care for the cost at this point in time. Maybe we'll do it later. And let's focus on those product lines which are having lower margins. Okay, and there we have to really focus on cost. To the contrary, there is a lot of change now and transformation, change management. These things are coming up considering the long-term sustainability of these pricing models, right? That even if you have high margins on certain products, are you going to sustain it over a period of time? So it's very important that procurement plays a role at each and every stage of the product life cycle, that you are able to continue with the margins that you have currently over a longer period of time.
Perfect. I think let's move further. We all acknowledge the uncertainty, volatility coming post-COVID, along with COVID. I'm not just saying post-COVID, along with COVID. And the whole concept of supplies available locally, globally, and in alternate situations. I think there has been a very oversimplification in terms of geopolitics and reaction to this particular concept of localization. But what are the critical dimensions of localization in terms of its advantages, its limitation, and the future? Because given the way the geopolitics goes, it also has to be forecasted the way it will go, right? Given the way the politics of the world is changing towards national interest, can have another this thing. And a lot of faith in the country, India, in terms of its growth and its role in future. And our own aspiration of being a 6 to 10 trillion economy makes a difference. So what are the critical limitations, and how do we manage the process of this transition and build resilience and agility into our procurement function?
So I'll just add a point on the volatility side that you just spoke about. Now, consider the current geopolitical situation where you have a lot of trade talks going on with the US. You have to soften your stand towards China, right? See the recent developments that have happened, especially in the industrial engineering and resin and raw materials side, where the BIS was rescinded. It's one of the case where BIS notification has been rescinded. Why? Because it's a trade barrier. So you have to adjust and be resilient towards these kind of situations rather than rescinding a BIS notification. Then the second aspect is the trade restrictions. For example, the anti-dumping duty. That expired in many cases. The DGTR notification expired in many cases. So you have a free flow from many of the countries from where you can get substandard material coming into India, right? So it's very important that with these changes and these kind of recent geopolitical shifts, India becomes more resilient. When we are moving towards Make in India, we become more resilient, and we understand that in these situations also our policy framework is not, tweaked to adjust to certain negotiations that are going on. And it's a major shift that India has to take.
So just to add on this very important point of local versus global sourcing, our dream, Prime Minister's dream, is of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and we are also a Krishi Pradhan Desh. So I'll take it a little, in the arena of agriculture largely. And when it comes to, we also keep hearing about, PLI, MSME schemes and other things. So largely restricting it to a food processing industry, just to give, I think, yesterday or day before yesterday, I read that statement from Mr. Chirag Paswan that about 9,200 crores has been disbursed under PLI for food processing. It's very good that, the industries are coming up, utilizing the incentives and other things. But are we really looking at the raw materials that are important for the manufacturing of the sector, right? And here I'll give you an example, and the example again is of, from an agri field, largely. So I represent a Alcobev industry, and for us, barley is one of the key ingredients which is there. During independence, roughly, the production of barley was about 3 million tons in the country, right? Today it stands roughly about 1.6, 1.7 million metric tons. And that too when the productivity has increased by 5 times, area has reduced by 6 times. And why I'm giving you these statistics, it is very important to understand. So the Alcobev industry, and it is not only about Alcobev industry, the benefits of barley per se, when you see it from a farmer's point of view, sustainability point of view, health aspect point of view, and in India also from spirituality point of view, is very, very important. Despite that, there has been a sharp reduction. Why? Because there has been per se no development, no research being done in this particular area. We are dependent on imports, but that's not how you can largely look at. The industry is dependent on quality barley imports, so as to say. So what is the initiative that a procurement guy can take, and how you can really make it work? We need to work. We have world-class institutes in the country in agricultural fields. We have to work, develop the R&D, get the right type of seeds, right quality of seeds for the industry usage as well as the food usage, along with the yield that the farmer gets the benefit out of it. And that's where what will happen? You will have a resilient supply chain. You would not be dependent on imports per se. You would not get impacted by tariffs. It's also a crop which improves the quality of soil in the country. We do have a problem of over-exploitation of water. We have a problem of high salinity in soils. That's something that is being taken care by this crop. We do provide, employment, because we would be able to come up with various industries. And in food processing, one of the important sectors was millets and other organic and traditional foods which government was promoting. So that's one of the examples where we see about a global and a local. And just to give a perspective from what you said about BIS. So BIS definitely impacts one industry, but we are an industry which are suffering another way. We need a BIS approval, and we do not get our packaging material to be imported. That's again a big challenge for us. So the industry is suffering from that perspective. So there are challenges which are from both the sides, but yes, local sourcing definitely helps provide employment, speed, agility, quality, much more resilience. Global also has its own benefit, but in today's arena of tariff wars, geopolitical situations, wars, and all, it is very, very important that we do have our own local sourcing or a business continuity plan or alternatives, so as to say. So I think that's a very important thing that procurement guys need to look at, whether it is in terms of capacity building or whether it in terms of looking at the future long-term long-term generation of demands.
No, Amit, I think well brought out, but we have been often listening to agriculture being the soul of this country and we can do this. I grew up in a village and I still see the village same as it is, right? So I think that's a lot of what you have said, that lots needs to be done.
Yeah.
And lots needs to be done for localizing production in the country or localizing sourcing in the country. So what are those key challenges that you all have faced? I'll take one or two people on that. Agriculture is very interesting. He comes from an organization called ITC. They did e-Chopal and they were wondering whether to do it or not, right? But they did a good job and it has become a source of their sourcing, right? But this needs to be a very wide macro platform. It has to be initiated by the country. I think agriculture is a fast depleting vocation in this country. Nobody wants to be in agriculture. So this is the challenge India faces. We talk big in terms of textbooks, but in reality agriculture is a fast, almost every village in the country has only old people, all retired. So I think there is a need to see how do we look at it, whether it's a Nestle, whether it's a United Breweries, whether it's a Diageo, there are larger opportunity and we need to vertically integrate or vertically coordinate and create a kind of a small farmer business consortium to develop them. So that's one area. But in other areas, how do you move forward? How do you look at, localizing, maybe in the automotive or auto components? Here, the two gents sitting here, so they can also give us some perspective.
So probably I think it is an industry continuum. I think Amit talked about agriculture a lot, Vinita talked about F&B industry. Automotive or industrial is slightly much progressive on localization. Yeah. So I would say that since I think which most of the auto OEMs came in almost like a couple of decades before, so the progression of localization has significantly moved. See, compared to where it was, like where we used to get CKDs and build cars or any other products, we have now gone to a stage where the localization is almost close to 95-97% in a lot of cases. Now, having said that, it is not all beds of roses for guys who are sitting here. The issue is like you compare the way the industry is, the way the supply chains is, the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 supply chains are. You name anything starting with quality. Cost is a given factor, correct? We all sit here because we look at cost as a major factor. We drive procurement from a cost standpoint. But if you really look at quality, if you really look at the delivery aspects of how the tier 1, tier 2 or the tier 3 suppliers are in a country like us, it needs a lot of improvement. I'm not saying it has not improved. I would say 25 years back to now, there is a sea change in the way professionalism has evolved in the industry. But still it is lacking, correct? Like a commitment given by a tier 3 supplier who is still an MSME, who still have his own problems, correct? The government has created a lot of frameworks, they have given funding, financial support, etc. But in reality, if you really go to a guy who is in a small tier 3 town, who supplies to any of the major OEMs, he still has his own set of problems, he still have manpower issues, he still have funding issues, he's not able to really produce the part at the time when some big OEM wants. So the government policies are there, but implementation at the ground level is lacking, which needs a lot of attention, and it again changes from state to state. It stains from place to place, industry to industry it changes. But overall, if you really see, one of the major challenges what we see is whether how we can improve that performance of what the localized suppliers can give to many of the companies who are in the driving seat.
So I just add on what Shrini spoke on. Since we are into the automotive world and it's a complete different scenario where OEM are supporting on this part, and now we hear a lot of words like responsible sourcing. So responsible sourcing comes with a cost, but OEM is also supporting on bringing responsible sourcing, and that becomes part of journey for tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 suppliers which are into the tier 3 cities around, where they come with us, they support us on how we can make this. Yeah, government policies are there on paper, but how to do it practically on the floor. They need to have a skilled worker on the floor to make them educated in the tier 3 cities around. IT has to be run in a right way. Some NGOs are helping out, but they need a big way change, need to bring in. Industries are supporting to do that. They are willing to invest in ITIs also, but there need to be a support around. So there we find little bit of skill differentiation, and that's where the things comes difficult for India. But we look at a future coming forward. Yeah, it's growth for automotive. We speak of automotive. We are going to have a big hub for exports also.
Doctor, in our industry, what we are going through is still 40% of fabric comes from China. So it's irony. We were the one, we invented muslin cloth, but today our reliance on China is very high, 40%. We go to China only because of superior quality, which we don't get it in India, sorry to say this. And they are very faster. Even after a shipment, we get fabric faster from China than India. So their infrastructure is so well equipped, we get much faster, and sometimes it is cheaper. So all these things put together, sometimes it is not available in India. So we have to rely on China to get it. So if everything goes well, why are we coming out of China is the question. So today the thing is so much of disruption. China plus one strategy, China plus two. So we need to just move into other countries. That's what we are trying to do it. And in our industry, there are two parts. One, fabric, and then other one is converting fabric into a garment. Today in India, there is no capacity at all. If I put it across, our factory is equal to a sampling unit in Bangladesh. This is the reality, hard reality. There is no manpower in the country. People are not willing to come to a factory and work. They think it is a sweatshop. Today the country has grown up like that. A guy who is delivering Swiggy earns more than the factory guy. And with what kind of pressure in the factory, they don't want to come and work. So they are not willing to come. So we need to rely upon Bangladesh. And you would have heard last 1 year what Bangladesh is going through. We had very bad 2 seasons. No merchandise have come out. And government policies are affecting it badly. Like previous panel discussion, people are telling government policies are just put it into on our head. I'll just tell one example what has happened in last 6 months. We used to get the goods from Bangladesh through a road route. So there is a road border. Goods get crossed the road border in 3 days. All of a sudden, on one fine day, government has put a notification, road route is closed. Road port is closed. It has to be taken through sea route. And unfortunately, sea route between India and Bangladesh is not established at all. There is nobody used it. Today, from a land route to a sea route, the lead time increase is 35 to 40 days, which we have not put it in our lead time. So already our lead time is mine to market is around 90 to 100 days. Adding 35 days, we will be losing everything. So yes, definitely we need to come out of global mindset. We need to create local. So already we have taken a baby step. We just started working, co-creating with our partners to set up. So whatever has happened in cotton, I mean, I'm a little technical about it. Whatever has happened in cotton, we are not doing it in polyester or a man-made fiber, nylon and polyester. We don't have mindset to create it. Today we started doing it. By the time, I think China will be far ahead. So how to fight with them is going to be a big task, which our industry is facing.
One more reaction and then we'll move ahead.
Yeah, speaking again on the aerospace industry, the biggest challenge is the availability of spares. And any aerospace spares, it's not cheap. So it's not available in the warehouse immediately. So it's always ordered when required. And most of these spares are available in US, Canada or France. And if these spares are large in size, then they have to be shipped in through the sea routes. And these take 60 to 75 days. And until the shipment reaches, that aircraft is grounded, or something called as AOG, aircraft on ground, and this impacts the revenue of the company. So this is one of the biggest challenges, and in the mid-size or the low-cost airlines that I have worked with, and there is no way around it, and stocking of parts is again a huge cost, and if the parts are not used, then we have to resell it at a cheaper price. So this is again a negative impact. So this is something that we're working on to get the spare crafts in a closer country warehouse where the companies operate through, which will help us reduce the time and the cost of getting the spares to the prime location on time and getting the aircraft back on air.
All right. With China is still a better sourcing hub for the world, maybe with the way US is going about, and if there is a geopolitical alignment in the future, maybe China still remains a very important company. Even in automobiles, the economies of scale that they enjoy is tremendous. So I think while we are doing better here, there will be some things that need to be bought from China, and we still are buying them from China, and some we can develop. Maybe that's the approach that we can have in all the industries to move ahead. One final point I think someone brought about is that this function needs more talent in the change context. We don't need just somebody on a negotiating table. We need someone who can strategically look at procurement and add value. Add value by understanding the overall value chain, as we said. What are the critical gaps and how do we move to bridge this gap?
So, if you see in terms of the talent development, now it is again relating to the first topic that we had, that as transformational function, are we evolving? So, I take many interviews for filling in many of the positions that keep coming in to expand the horizon of procurement. And what I'm observing that overall as an industry, we need to come up and we need to really groom people in procurement to have the strategic side. Okay, it's an intent that needs to be filled in as a talent development area. HR has a huge role to play there. The institutions, especially the academic institutions, have a huge role to play there, where they actually start focusing on procurement as a strategic lever, even in the educational system. Because if you see currently what is happening, it's always a part of operations and supply chain. And then what happens, that procurement is always seen as a mere purchase function where you have to do order processing. And then the talent attraction towards this field, because in the academics they don't learn that there is a strategic planning side of it, there is a strategic intent to procurement, there is lack of interest initially, and when they go and get inside the industry and when they get exposure, then only you get those talents. But then because of this, you have scarcity. You don't have the right talent for many of the verticals. For example, if you have a specific strategic lever that you require to impart in indirect procurement, you will very rarely get people with a very high level strategic mindset. So it's important that we groom, as we all have this role as head of procurement or head of supply chains. We have this role to groom the talent within our companies, and also they impart their learnings and groom the people for future so that the industry can benefit. Very important.
But what are those critical elements that we need to concentrate upon?
Yeah.
This is too generic a statement, but what do we really need to do? What are the critical gaps that needs to be filled in the process of building the talent for tomorrow?
Yeah, so one thing just I'll touch base. One is the business, overall business understanding, right? So you start looking at the business from the perspective that overall how the deliverables are. And based on that, then you start working on the procurement strategy, right? And for that, people need to start looking at a higher level, and then these people have to be trained on the strategic levers to take care of the functions like procurement. One of the points.
See, I think the procurement, we talked about transformation of procurement, correct? I think even the technology is aiding a lot. Given the way the AI is developing, agentic AIs are coming into procurement, all the AI, ML, machine learning, etc. The whole transaction piece of procurement is now outdated. Like there are models which can just do the work which normally somebody who places a purchase order chases for a material. It is a matter of time when that whole function will get eliminated. Procurement is going to always be a strategic function. So what strategy? It is not just probably strategizing and buying based on cost. The guy needs to understand the business, he needs to understand the financials behind how he's going to operate the company. He needs to also understand the economic and politics behind how the world is operating, correct? He needs to understand how the all the economic shifts which is happening. He needs to understand forex capabilities, all the variabilities which is happening. So a guy has to be multifaceted to really drive a strategic sourcing function rather than just being a guy who used to run a function which was earlier. And ironically, we don't have education system which is tuned to train even a procurement or even a supply chain guy. Very hardly we have specializations which run at graduate level and postgraduate level for the industry. So that is something which probably the academia will need to work on. Plus also all these certifications which really come in through certification agencies, they also need to drive those things. Although like leaders like us, we will continue to drive that from an organization standpoint, but we also need that push from the other side who can really give such kind of professionals who are industry ready so that we can pull them in and drive those things in the industry.
Just one line to add to Shrini, he was very right. You see, there's only one institute, NITI, which is now IIM Mumbai. Other than that, you don't have any Prima Institute to cater supply chain.
I think NITI is not a good ecosystem. It is student-driven institution without faculty. So I think, sorry, I've been a professor.
That is the only one.
Opinion, but yeah.
And that too,
this is like, alienating everybody because large number of people come from NITI. You all have grown because of the business side rather than on the institution side. Yeah. I think opinion can be divided on this. There are institutions which do provide these things, like Institute of Supply Chain Management has 2 certifications. We hardly nominate people for them. One quite often quoted example is that we don't have time, they cannot spare people. So when you can't spare people, you cannot retrain them, right? So this is something which has to be dealt with. So this is the biggest constraint that we have because in a system which is firefighting, we don't have time.
Yeah.
I think it starts from the fact that, I would take it a step back. It starts from the fact that we as a leaders also do not glorify procurement as a function. And thus, because we do not glorify procurement and the role of procurement as a function, we do not attract probably the type of talent which goes into other functions. That's where it starts from, and then all these rest of the steps comes in.
I want to just touch upon that. See, in my mind, there are 2 aspects to this. One, of course, what are the procurement people today being trained on? It's really any organization, any academic institution, they're only being trained on hard skills. And as procurement people sitting out here, we all will relate to it and we'll all concur that it's not just the hard skills that are needed. There are a lot of soft skills also which are needed to be able to manage this function. There's a lot of relationship management, there's a lot of, cross-functional alignments. Every single day there is problem solving. So a lot of those very generic soft skills that all of us need to be learning through or need to be that we apply on a daily basis is not something that students are really being trained on. As an organization, what we've done is that we've of course identified, sure enough, as and when the institutions will pick this up and hopefully realize that, there is a program that needs to be put in place for that. We've actually put across, some short-term programs, because one of the similar challenges that we had was that we could never pull out people and send them across for trainings, because it's such a it's a function that runs literally 24/7. Every day is a new day. Every day is a new challenge. So we pick up people who are very interested to know about the function from other functions to actually come in and do almost like a so-called semi-internship with us. So they kind of intern with us, and in that whole process, in my current organization in the last 2.5 years, what I've seen is that people who've been in the system in other functions, let's say operations, people who've really been on the receiving end, they kind of understand what are the real challenges on ground. When they actually come on to the back end, we can train them on hard skills. Soft skills, some of them already exist. We kind of orient them to the soft skills. They actually turn out to be far better performers as compared to anybody who's coming out of any institute, without really talking about any institute here on the stage here. But I think the whole program needs a bit of a rethinking of what it needs to encompass to be able to prepare procurement leaders who management is also going to take seriously. Because one of the very key gaps that we always see is that you don't have a business orientation. You don't understand numbers beyond just your purchasing numbers. And I think that is such a key element. Because unless you understand the P&L and how you're going to be able to impact the P&L, you will never be able to sit across there and be able to demand the importance that you actually deserve. So I guess, it's more of that.
I'll just add one point to Amit, glorifying the department. So what I used to tell, major of our industry kind of where 65 to 75% is the buying out of your total turnover. So we say that we are the owner of the company. We need to be owner because the buying what we do out of 2,000 crore, 1,500 is bought by us. And what is the ratio of the people to the buying? Very less. Sales, you have a 3 times salesperson. So how important role? Every person, if there are 30% for 1,500 crore, you are owner of 300 crore, 30 crore you are running around. So you need to make that feel that you are so important for this organization. And then slowly and steadily what Vinita told, I have 3 GETs who joined in operation. They are ready to move to supply chain. They came to know that this is an area where we can find a lot of things we can make a difference around.
Just only one point. So you are right, Vinita. We procurement team, we think we are a back-end function. So first of all, people have to be motivated. That's all hard skills can come. Institutes are there to teach. So soft skills like motivation. So this is really required because people are not willing to come. Even if they come and work in a supply chain, sourcing, procurement, after 2 seasons they say that no, I want to go move to brand and sales. So that mindset has to be changed. So just to sum it up, procurement, I used to tell my team members, you come with capability and attitude, we will develop you. That's the only thing. And always my terminology is procurement or sourcing is nothing but using common sense. It's not a rocket science.
Every business is a common sense business, right? All right. I think it is very important for organizations to realize that every business and every aspect of the business is important. The human resource development and policies needs to equate that particular part. I, as a professor, have seen that you don't really, get your due when you are into supply chain operations and procurement. But if you are in finance and marketing, the campuses, boil down with this particular feeling every January, February, March, April, right? All over the country. I think this needs to change. There is a need to equalize functions first, and there's a need to train people in these functions. I think unless we do a structural part at the top, it's not going to come even from procurement leaders, because leaders can be just one element of motivators that can happen. On this note, I thought we'll close the panel. Thank you very much for a free flow thought process.